Well, well, well. It is amazing how people just all of a sudden just change their minds all of a sudden. So it appears now that the national media, the sports world, they're all jumping on the bandwagon of my Georgia Bulldogs. They're all picking the dogs to win this thing now, all of a sudden. And a lot of you are wondering why. Does Georgia have the most talented team in this playoffs? No. Does Georgia have the most 5 stars left in the playoffs? No. Does Georgia has the most NFL talent out of all the playoff teams? No. Does Georgia have the best quarterback out of all the college football playoffs, out of all the 12 teams? No. Does Georgia have the best running back out of all the 12 teams? No. Maybe it's because Georgia has the most physical team out of all the 12 teams left in the playoffs. Bingo! Get your popcorn ready. We're going to discuss that. I'm Armondo Black, and this is the Dog Call. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Dog Call. I'm your host, Armondo Black. Got a lot to talk about here tonight. Got a lot to talk about. I hope everyone had a blessed and productive Wednesday today. I hope everyone enjoyed their Wednesday. I just wanted to come on here and touch on a few things here. First things first, welcome everyone. Make sure you hit that like button, share the video. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, if you're a first timer over here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and also hit that notification bell as well, so you can get all the notifications of the great content that we'll be bringing you over here at 20s Media Sports and the Armondo Black TV channel. Okay, let's go into the talking points here today. It appears that all of the sports analysts, the experts, the ESPNs, the Fox Sports, CBS Sports, Yahoo Sports, 24/7 Sports, Josh Pate has, of all people, Josh Pate has been picking against us all year. He picked against us in the Alabama game. He picked against us in the Texas game. He picked against us in the Tennessee game. He even picked against us in the rematch with Texas. He wanted to pick against us in the Georgia Tech game. Josh Pate has even came out and picked Georgia to win the national title. Um, it's a landslide on ESPN. Roman Harper, Paul Feinbaum, Chris Doring, Ari, all of them are picking Georgia to win this thing. And a lot of people wonder, okay, so why would anyone pick Georgia? They lost their quarterback, yada yada. They lost their punter. Georgia has the drops. We lead the nation in drops. Listen, and I hear all the haters. I hear all the haters. I say, well, Georgia lead the nation in drops. Who leads the NFL in drops? Which team in the NFL right now leads the NFL in drops? Ding ding, Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, they lead the NFL in drops, but they keep winning. They keep winning championships. They keep winning Super Bowls. They keep winning games. But back to our Georgia Bulldogs. The Georgia Bulldogs, and I'm not even talking about the path. Georgia brings something that I don't think any of these other teams bring. Number one, let me just say this about the entire playoff field. There is not one elite, big badass bully of a team in this thing this year. And we've had them in the previous 10 years. Let's go back to 2014. The big bully was Bama and Florida State. You had really three big bullies: Oregon, Florida State, Bama. Ohio State was the underdog. Okay. Ohio State won. 2015, in my opinion, 2015, it was Bama and Clemson. They were the big dogs. They were the two big dogs. Okay. Oklahoma was doing their thing, but Oklahoma was more of a finesse team. Michigan State, really, they were only there by default. Ohio State, they caught Ohio State on the bad day. Michigan State beat Ohio State. They ran the table, won the Big Ten, and Michigan State got in the playoffs. 2016, it was Bama, Clemson, and everybody else. 2017, in comes Georgia as the newcomers. Oklahoma, in my opinion, Oklahoma had the best team that year. Oklahoma had the best team in the nation, the best roster. They had the Heisman. They had a future Heisman as the backup, Kyler Murray. Baker Mayfield was the quarterback, was the Heisman. Then you had Trey Sermon, and they had another running back. I forgot his name, but he got injured. Great running back. Then those are receivers. The tight end, Andrews. Unstoppable. Andrews was, I'm not saying he was better than Brock Bowers, but he was damn near close to Brock Bowers. It's skill-wise. Okay. And yards after catches. He would kill you with yards after catches. And those two wide out, CeeDee Lamb and Hollywood Brown. They were torching teams during the regular season. And let's not forget now, talk about the flag planting. It was that Oklahoma Sooners, that 2017 Oklahoma Sooners team that started the flag planting thing. When they went into Columbus and mollywopped the Buckeyes on their own field on a Saturday night. That Oklahoma team was a badass team. They were the most talented team, but they were not physical at all. Bama and Georgia were the two most physical teams in the playoffs that year, and they ended up playing for a national championship. Bama won, but Oklahoma had the most talented team that year. All right. Let's go to 2018. It was Clemson and Bama and everybody else. 2019. 2019. Now, as far as the most loaded and the most talented team, LSU was that. But they were not the most physical team. The most physical team, in my opinion, in 2019 was Bama. Bama, because they were beaten by LSU during the regular season. They were upset by Auburn in the Iron Bowl, didn't make it into the playoffs. Now, a lot of people say that 2019 LSU team was the best team ever. No, not in my opinion. They were not. They were the most talented team. They were one of the most talented team, but they were not better, in my opinion. They didn't dominate the way that 95 Nebraska team did. They did not dominate the way that 01 Hurricanes team did. They did not dominate the way that 04 USC Trojan team did. That LSU team had to come from behind and win a lot of games that year, if you can remember. All right. There were times that they were on the ropes and they had to come from behind and win their games. So I mean, and there was a couple of games that the ball would have bounced a little differently, like the Auburn game. When Auburn went to Baton Rouge and played LSU that year in 2019, if the ball would have bounced a little differently, LSU would have been upset. Had there been a 12-team playoff that season, in my opinion, and listen to me real good, had there been a 12-team playoff in the mix that year, LSU would have ran into Bama in a rematch. And in my opinion, because Bama was more physical than LSU was that year. Now, I don't give a damn about the Joe Burrows and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and all of them. Yeah. Bama had a squad too. Bama still had Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, John Mechie. And if I'm not, they had a squad that year. If they and Najee Harris was their running back. Had they would have had a 12-team playoff that year, Bama would have beaten them in the rematch, and Bama would have won the national title that year. Okay, 2020. That was a pandemic year. Put an asterisk on it. That wasn't a real season. Michigan and Ohio State didn't get a chance to play. We don't know. For all we know, Michigan, it could have been 6 in a row. For all we know, Michigan probably could have beat Ohio State. The Big Ten only played, 4 or 5 games in the regular season. So I really don't count 2020. All right, so let's go on to 2021. 2021, the two most physical teams in it was Bama and Georgia and everybody else. All season. They took turns. Georgia would be ranked number 1 one week. Bama would be ranked number. They just swapped places. They were clearly the two best teams in the playoffs in the nation that year. And it came down between those two. Georgia was the more physical in the national title game, and they won the game. They won the national title. 2022, Georgia was just head and shoulders above it, better than everybody that year. Georgia was that 2022 team. That 2022 team was dominant. They were dominant. It was Georgia and everybody else. It was clear that year that Georgia was going to win the national title. Let's fast forward to last year. Last year, and this is a prime example. Last year, Texas had more talent on their team than any of the 4 finalists. Texas, let me say it again now. Texas was loaded, had more talent on their team than any of the other out of all the 4 finalists, all the 4 playoff teams. Texas was the most loaded. But it was the more physical team. that ended up winning the national title, and that was Michigan. Michigan went undefeated, and they met Washington in the national. I don't give a damn if it would have been Texas playing down there in Houston. I think Michigan would have beaten that Texas team. So here we have it. There was only one team last year that could match Michigan physicality, and that was Georgia. And unfortunately, Georgia didn't make it into the playoffs. Same situation like in 2019. The only team that had the physicality to actually beat that 2019 LSU team was Bama. But unfortunately, Bama didn't make it into the playoffs. So the same fate that Bama met in 2019, Georgia met that same fate last year. Just wasn't enough room at the table. Now, here we are. It's a bigger table. It's a bigger table, and it's a lot more loaded field. And let me explain to you why a lot of these people are rolling with the dogs. Let me shrink down the logo here. Look at Oregon. Look where Oregon is at. Number one, Oregon is the number one seed. Now, 2 weeks ago, everybody and their mama was picking Oregon to win the national title. Now, some people are saying, well, the seedings are wrong. The seedings, Oregon got a bad deal. Look, Oregon got what they drew. Oregon got what they drew. If you know how to set up a tournament bracket, this is how it goes. The number one seed, if you're doing a 12-team bracket, the number one freaking seed will always play the winner of the 8-9 seed. So this ridiculous notion that the committee screwed over Oregon, some of you really, really need refresher courses. Some of you, I can tell the lack of education by a lot of clowns on here that I hear and see in these chats typing, Oregon got screwed. Oregon got screwed. Even some of these reporters on TV. Heard a lady, a reporter from NBC that was on Paul Feinbaum earlier today talking about Oregon got screwed. How the hell did Oregon get screwed? They're the number one seed, and they're playing the winner of the 8th and 9th seed. No one, listen, hey, it ain't the committee fault that Ohio State lost to Oregon and they got upset by Michigan. Okay, an unranked Michigan team dropped Ohio State down to number 8. Tennessee lost to Georgia, and they lost to Arkansas, an unranked Arkansas team. Okay, it goes back to what I was saying. There is no clear-cut dominant team. Every team in this field has flaws, including Oregon. Texas is rightfully so. They deserve the 5 seed. I'm going to tell you why. Even though they got 2 losses, technically, they only lost to one team. They only lost to one team. And a lot of you are forgetting that. Texas, yes, they have 2 losses, but technically they've only lost to one team. Where everyone else in here has, with the exception of Oregon, every other team in the field has lost to multiple teams, including our Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia lost to 2 different teams, Ole Miss and Bama. Penn State lost to 2 different teams, Oregon and Ohio State. Ohio State lost to Michigan and Oregon. Everybody has lost to multiple teams except Oregon and Texas. But Texas can't be a 2 seed because they lost the SEC championship game. So what's the next best place to put them at? Number 5. People have to use their common sense. Texas earned that spot because they only lost to one team throughout the entire year, and that was Georgia. Clemson at 12. And listen, they won their conference with 3 losses. We knew eventually somebody was going to get in with 3 losses. We knew that. That's not a surprise. Penn State, they lost 2 games. Number 6. They went into the conference championship game with only 1 loss, and that was to Ohio State. They lost 1 game going into the conference championship game. So what was the committee supposed to do? Penalize them and put them down at 10? I mean, come on, everyone. SMU at 11. Now, this is the one thing I disagree with. I don't believe that Texas should have to play Clemson in the first round. The only problem I have with this bracket is that SMU, if they were the last team selected or the last team, it was a close between them and Bama. Those were the last teams considered for the at-large bids. SMU should be at 12. How the hell you got SMU in front of Clemson and Clemson just beat SMU? Now, I understand we value conference champions and conference championship games matter. But you know what should carry more weight? Head-to-head. Head-to-head should carry more weight. And not only the fact that it was a head-to-head victory for Clemson, they just beat them. They just beat them. The win is fresh in all of our minds. So why the hell are they behind SMU? Why do Clemson have to play Texas and SMU has to play Penn State? SMU loses the ACC championship game, so they get rewarded, in my opinion, with playing Penn State and not drawing Texas. Because SMU going to Austin would have been a hell of a lot tougher than going to Penn State. Penn State is a good team, but Texas has the number 1 defense in the nation. That's a tough matchup. But I think Clemson matches up very well with Texas. So we'll see about that. Notre Dame. Now, here's the thing. I wouldn't have been mad if Ohio State, instead of putting Ohio State at 8, if I was the committee, I would have considered putting Ohio State at 7. Because although Notre Dame had only 1 loss, it was to Northern Illinois. Ohio State loss, even that Michigan loss, is not worse than that Northern Illinois loss at home in South Bend. I can't erase that out of my mind. And the fact that Northern Illinois led most of that game. They mollywopped Notre Dame. We can't forget that. So I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't have been mad if Ohio State would have been ranked 7 instead of 8. And Ohio State would have been hosting Indiana. But I kind of think the reason why they was trying to stay away from rematches. They didn't because remember, this is also, you got networks involved, and they did not want to see another Ohio State Indiana matchup, not in the first round. So I think that's what led to their decision of putting matching Notre Dame up with Indiana, which also adds more theatrics to the situation that it's an in-state rivalry. They don't like each other. They don't get to play each other often. Notre Dame plays Purdue a lot, but it's rare that they get a chance to play Indiana in football. They play a lot in basketball, but not in football. So Oregon has a tough road, ladies and gentlemen. They have a tough road. And if you watch the Big Ten championship game, you'll see Oregon is not that physical on defense. Penn State went up and down the field on them, up and down the field on them, up and down the field on them all night long. They went up and down the field on them all night long. Penn State moved the ball, moved the ball. James Franklin making some dumb calls and dumbass decisions is maybe what cost Penn State the game. But Oregon's defense, now, and they played three legitimate opponents: Boise State, Ohio State, and Penn State. And all three of those games, Oregon's defense looked kind of soft. They are not a dominant physical team. They have a good offense, but they don't have a juggernaut of an offense. That offense can be slowed down with the right defense. That offense can be slowed down. Oregon has not seen a defense with the speed of Texas or Tennessee. That's the problem. And in my opinion, if whoever comes out of that game, that Ohio State Tennessee game, is going to be dangerous. If Ohio State beats Tennessee at home in the playoff game, they're going to be dangerous. Ryan Day and that team, their confidence is going to come back. And they're going to go on and they're going to play Oregon in a rematch. Now, if you remember, think back to that first game. The only reason why Ohio State lost that game is because they ran out of time. Had they not ran out of time, that game would have came to a different outcome. It would have been a much different outcome. Trust me. Oregon is not the dominant team that some of these networks and some of these people are making them out to be. They haven't seen a defense with the speed of Texas or Tennessee. If Tennessee can get past Ohio State, and match up with Ohio State in their Rose Bowl, and Tennessee fans travel very, very well. Very well. Let me just say that now. Just because the game will be in Pasadena, don't think for 1 minute that stadium, that Rose Bowl, is going to be full of green and yellow. Nope. You're going to see a lot of orange in the stands. Trust me on that. Because those fans travel very well. Very well. We could see an upset in that first round. All the pressure is going to be on Ohio State. All the pressure is going to be on Ohio State. But I'm not going to go too deep into that tonight. I'm just pointing out some facts of why these people are picking Georgia. Because Georgia is the most physical team. They have players on the team that have been there since 2020. They have players on that team that has been there throughout the entire championship run. 2021, 2022, last year when they went undefeated, and this year's SEC championship. They have a lot of experience on that team. A lot of experience on that team. Georgia is the most physical team, and in my opinion, next to Texas, Georgia may have the second best defense, which makes them very dangerous. Now, on the offensive side, yeah, they've had drop issues. Yes, true enough. They've had drop issues. And their down to their backup quarterback. Carson Beck will not be playing in that Sugar Bowl. Now, I don't know about the Orange Bowl and the national championship game. All right, because nothing concrete has came out about the status of Carson Beck's UCL injury. But we can't say for a fact he will not be starting in the Sugar Bowl. He won't. It will be Gunnar Stockton's. The keys will be handed to Gunnar Stockton. Here's the thing about that. What is the remedy for a team that does not have elite play at receiver? They have some good receivers, but no elite receivers. A good running game, but not an elite running game. What is the remedy for that? A mobile quarterback. A mobile quarterback that can manage the game and extend drives. That's the importance of Gunnar Stockton. That is what Gunnar Stockton brings to the table. That is why I said back in August on one of the kickoff shows with my two brothers, D True Sniper and my sis, you knew. I made a statement. I said, Georgia has the deepest quarterback room in the nation. And they do. They have 4 very talented, gifted quarterbacks. Carson Beck, which a lot of people still projected to go in, got him projected to go in the first round. Gunnar Stockton, who holds the all-time record in Georgia high school football passing yards and touchdowns. Ryan Puglisi, which a lot of people compare him to Tim Tebow, a faster Tim Tebow that will run around you, over you, through you. And Jaden Rashada. And we all know Jaden Rashada, hell, a couple of years ago, he was the number 1 quarterback coming out of high school. So Georgia has a deep QB room. And here's the bad news for everybody in the playoff field. The rest of the quarterbacks, all the quarterbacks that are behind Gunnar, they are even more mobile. Puglisi is a monster. Cannon for an arm and can run like hell. Jaden Rashada, the kid can run. And he has a cannon for an arm. He just don't have the playbook down pat, from what I'm hearing. But Gunnar, that kid is very talented. Very talented. You saw Georgia. Any other time, Texas would have probably won that game running away. With any other team, but not with Georgia. Georgia has a damn good O-line, a stacked O-line. 2 good running backs, ETN, Nate Frazier. Nate Frazier, in my opinion, is elite. Elite. He is definitely going to be playing on Sundays. And in my opinion, before he leaves Georgia, he's going to end up in New York as a Heisman finalist. In my opinion, that's going to be Nate Frazier. Now, the fumbling issues, yeah. But I'm not holding that against him, because guess who else had fumbling issues as a true freshman, their freshman season? Sony Michel. Yep. Sony Michel had fumbling issues. And you see how that turned out. Sony Michel, the same dude that rushed for what, like 4 or 5 touchdowns in the Rose Bowl. Listen, Nate Frazier, this kid is going to be special. And I'm telling you right now, this Georgia Bulldogs offense is doubly dangerous with a mobile QB. Remember the last time Georgia had a mobile QB? They won 2 back-to-back national titles. Stetson Bennett was mobile. And the thing about Garner is, Garner don't mind running the ball on first down. Stetson really didn't take off until like second, third down, something like that. Very rare. Stetson didn't do that much running. He did way more passing than he did running. Garner, he'll tuck and run that ball in a heartbeat. He could kill you both ways with his legs and his arms. Sometimes the most talented team, a lot of times, the most talented team don't win the championship. You can be the most talented team, and there's no doubt in my mind that Oregon, right now, pound for pound, Oregon is the more talented team. They got more NFL players on their team. Between Oregon and Ohio State, no doubt. Those are some very talented teams. But when it comes down to a 12-team playoff, when you're playing back to back to back to back physical football games, it's physicality. The more physical team, the more hungrier team, the more battle-tested team, the more experienced team, and the more experienced coaching staff always has the advantage. Now, who did I just describe? What team did I just describe? Physicality, hungry, resilient, battle-tested, experience. All 5 describes my Georgia Bulldogs. And I still feel like it was an attempt to screw us by giving us that hard ass schedule. That's my opinion. Listen, I'm not a puppet for anybody. I fund my own podcast. I'm not giving any script. I speak my mind over here. My content over here is raw and uncut. It's not scripted. I'm not here to play PC games, politically correct games. I say what's on my mind, and I mean what I say. I really do believe that schedule was meant for us to fail. Do you think it's a coincidence that we had to play Bama, Texas, and Ole Miss on the road in the same damn year, where Texas only had to play us at home? They got us at home, and they got the Aggies on the road, which everybody knew coming into the season that Texas was a better team than the Aggies. The Aggies had one shining moment against Missouri and LSU. But then we found out as the season went along that Missouri was not all who we thought they were, and neither was LSU. Texas did not see Bama. They did not see Ole Miss, and they did not see Tennessee. They didn't play none of the big dogs like we had to play. We played every contender. We had to play. There was 3 SEC teams that went to the playoffs. Besides us, we had to play the 2 playoff teams. one on the road, one at home. We even had to go on the road and play the bubble team, Bama, which finished 11th. I'm sorry, 12th. Bama finished 12th. We had to play the bubble team. Not only that, we had to play the ACC champion. We had to open up the season with the ACC champion. We were the most battle-tested team this year. Now, let me go back to that 2019 LSU team. Another reason why they won a national title that year, because they were the most battle-tested. They had to play Texas. They had to play Bama. They had to play Florida. They had to play Auburn. They had to play Texas A&M. They had to play South Carolina, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Arkansas, and then they had to come to Atlanta and play my Georgia Bulldogs in the SEC championship game. The only other team that I can think of that had a gauntlet anywhere near close to what we had this year is that 2019 LSU team. They had a gauntlet. But playing that gauntlet is going to pay off for these Georgia Bulldogs. Because let me just look at that bracket here. And I'm not trying to poo-poo on none of these teams. Notre Dame, Indiana, Penn State, SMU, Boise State. Those teams I just called out do not come anywhere near close to the gauntlet that we had to go through this season. So I say that to say, with or without Carson Beck, this team is the most dangerous team in the playoffs right now. Not only because now it has a mobile quarterback, but also you got to remember the health. This team is getting healthier. This team is going to have rest. They're going to have time to prepare. They're going to have time to get healthy. Now, yes, granted, we're losing Beck. We lost Thorson. But you all know from previous years, Georgia restacks and reload. Kirby always has another one in the chamber, ready to fire. He always has a next man up. Always. Kirby Smart is very prudent. His coaching is very prudent. He always stays one step ahead. Every Texas fan, when Carson Beck went down, every Texas fan in that Mercedes-Benz Stadium, every Texas fan sitting at home watching just knew, they just thought they had it in the bag. Oh, Carson Beck down. Oh, this guy gonna stop. We never heard of him. He ain't had no playing time. And that's another thing too. We have gotten off to so many slow starts this season that our backups really didn't get a chance to get much playing time. Like there were some games that our backups, we were hoping to get our backups in like around at the end of the second quarter or right after halftime, but it didn't work out like that. Tennessee Martin, Mississippi State, UMass, Georgia Tech. The backups didn't see no playing time against Georgia Tech. Any other season, they would see playing time against Georgia Tech. Not this year. The starters played the entire game. UMass, hell, the backups didn't come in until sometime around the fourth quarter. Midway through the fourth quarter. So that's what's going to make this story even more special. But make no mistake about it, practicing against our Georgia defense, our first team Georgia defense, every day got this kid ready. What better test, what better way to prepare Gunnar Stockton than to have him practicing every day against the first team defense? He was going up against Stackhouse and Jalen Walker and Mekhi Williams and Smile Munden and Warren Brinson. He taking hits from Dalen Everett, Dan Jackson on a regular. So this notion that he ain't going to be ready for either Notre Dame, Penn State, or whoever else want to bring it on, you don't know your damn football. And you obviously have not been following my Georgia Bulldogs. Because if it's any coach that is an expert at preparation, it's Kirby Smart. You know why? Because he learned from the GOAT. He learned from the GOAT. He learned from the greatest of all time. See, a lot of other coaches coached under Saban. Kirby, not only did he coach under Saban, he learned from the man. And that's why Kirby is building his own legacy right here at Georgia. And he's going to go down. When his coaching days are over with, he's going to go down. I ain't saying he's going to eclipse Saban. I'm not saying all that, but he will go down as one of the greatest college football coaches of all time. Book it. Book that. He ain't done. He ain't done by far. He is just getting started. The man ain't even 50 yet. If I'm not mistaken, I think Kirby, 49 years old. The man ain't even 50 yet. He's only just begun. So everybody, Georgia fans, get your popcorn ready. Get your popcorn ready, because this Dawgs dynasty is going to continue on for a number of years. And shout out to Nitro Tuggle. Nitro Tuggle decided to come back. He decided to come out the portal, and he's back. He's practicing. He's back with the team. And look for Nitro to get some balls thrown his way. That kid is 6'2", can jump like hell, and can run fast as hell. That name fits him. So everyone, hey, I can understand why all of those sports analysts are all of a sudden changing their tune and they're jumping on the Dawgs bandwagon. They see exactly what I see. When it comes down to these playoffs, it's usually the team that is the hungriest, the most resilient, the most physical, the most experienced. And has a staff of coaches that know how to win games like these. That's our Georgia Bulldogs. I want to thank you all for coming out and joining me here this evening. Like I said earlier, hey, make sure you hit that like button, share this video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell as well. I want to thank you all for coming out. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night. Hey, look. Hey, can you believe it? The 12-team playoffs are right around the corner. This weekend, we have the Heisman presentation, have the HBCU National Championship game, which is the Celebration Bowl. And I think we have we have a couple of bowl games this weekend. But next weekend, the playoffs officially start. Notre Dame and Indiana kick off next Friday, and then that next Saturday, then the following day, a full slate of playoff games from noon to 8 o'clock. So everyone, hey, I'm Armondo Black. Thank you all for coming out. Like I always say, take care of yourselves and each other. And for one last thing, like I always say, no matter what, it's always gonna be go dog, sick 'em. Woo, 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 woo. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night.